All right, y'all. Welcome back to The Problem With. And if this is your first time tuning in, let me break it down real quick. Every Wednesday, I drop these solo episodes called The Lies We Tell, where I go off script, speak from the gut, and I call out the myths or the gaslighting and outright BS that shapes the way that we talk about, like education, politics, culture, all of it. Because sometimes the most dangerous stuff we believe isn't just false. It's been planned for a long time. So today's lie that we're going to talk about, it's the one I hear constantly on TV, on Facebook, on YouTube comment sections, or anywhere. And somehow we still hear, and we also hear it in school board meetings where nobody stepped foot in a classroom since forever, since dial-up internet or anything like that. And the lie that we hear all the time, and I hear all the time, is kids today don't know how to do anything. You probably have heard it, or they don't know how to change a tire. They can't cook. They don't know how to balance a checkbook. They are soft, entitled, hopeless. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, but I'll be as transparent as I can. But I am a teacher. I work with high schoolers every day, and sure, some of them don't know how to cook rice or file their taxes yet. But guess what? Neither did a lot of you at the age of 16. What's the difference? We had systems in place that were supposed to teach us those things. Shop class, home economics, personal finance, auto tech, woodworking. And those programs now, they are becoming extinct, gone. They've been gutted, defunded, and turned into test prep periods or deleted from the schedule completely. And today, the same people who cheered those cuts on are acting shocked that students don't magically know how to rotate their tires and build a resume before junior year. Like, come on, get out of here. So let's start of who is doing this. Who's actually saying this? So this narrative doesn't just come from the cranky Facebook uncles or this random dude yelling at the clouds in a Cracker Barrel parking lot. It's coming from people with platforms, people with millions of viewers and lots of money. They have book deals, merch stores, and podcast studios that probably cost more than any salary or the yearly salaries for millions of teachers combined. The people I'm talking about: Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, Charlie Kirk, Dennis Prager, Ryan Walters, Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, and Jesse Waters, and many more. But the usual suspects. They say today's kids are soft, entitled, lazy, that public schools are turning them into Marxist, gender fluid zombies who can't boil water or hammer a nail. But let's be real. When was the last time any of these people actually worked a real job? Like a real job? Or they changed their own oil, or carried drywall, or waited tables, or scrubbed a gas station toilet on a double shift. And I'll tell you what, they never have. Those people don't know grit. They know what a green room looks like. They're grifters. So let's break it down. Let's break down these people real quick. Let's start with Tucker Carlson. He grew up in La Jolla, California. He was the son of a U.S. ambassador, and he went to a boarding school. And this man's biggest struggle was probably figuring out which bow tie to use on air. He's always been on media. He's been wealthy his whole life. Then we go to Charlie Kirk. He started Turning Point USA at the age of 18 with dark money from billionaire donors. He never punched a time card or work a double at a Waffle House, but he'll tell you about quote-unquote hard work from a leather chair in a climate-controlled studio. Then we go to Dennis Prager. If you ever heard of Dennis Prager, he's the one who created PragerU. So he built a media empire of a moral panic. He never did a trade, but think he's the authority on manhood, family, and how schools are brainwashing your kids. Then we go to Ben Shapiro. If you know who Ben Shapiro, I'll give you a little quick example. Ben Shapiro, Harvard Law, speaks a mile a minute, can fix a leaky sink to save his life. That's his example, but let me slow it down for some of you. He went to Harvard Law. He speaks, like I mentioned, speaks so fast. He can't fix a leaky sink to save his life, but he's always first to blame teachers and students for society's collapse. Then we go to Candace Owens. She was raised in the suburbs of Connecticut. She switches political identities like it's a branding strategy. She just changes it whenever the money goes. And now she's out here lecturing the working class on personal responsibility while raking in millions for outrage clicks. And let's go to the big one. Then there's Ryan Walters. He's Oklahoma's own political parasite. Ryan Walters, like, he used to teach history. Now what he's doing, he's like auditioning for a full-time for Fox News. He's slashing education budgets and turning public schools into a cult to war circus. Like, he spends more time attacking teachers than helping students. If you know who Ryan Walters is, you know what he's done. But if you don't know who he is, he's just recently trying to change the social studies standards to say that the 2020 election was actually stolen from Donald Trump and teach it as fact. He's also wants to put the Bible, the Ten Commandments, in every classroom. Public school, remind you, public school classrooms. And he wants to also, thank God this didn't happen, but he wanted to put a Trump Bibles in every single classroom as well, and using taxpayer money for that. And you know what gets me, that really gets me on this? These people love to pretend they're one of us. They talk like they're defending the quote-unquote working man. They talk about blue-collar values, hard work, patriotism. But let's ask ourselves, and ask yourself this: where do these people send their kids? It's not the same public schools they're bashing every day. Not the underfunded district where crumbling ceilings and 50-year-old textbooks. No, their kids go to private schools or chartered or religious academies, institutions with tuition that costs more than your mortgage. So, the same people want to rip money out of public schools and give it to those schools they already send their kids to, and they call it quote unquote school choice. It's not a choice, guys. Like, it's a grift. It's a political move to destroy education across the landscape. And here it's like, you don't get to, like, these people, you don't get to torch the house and then blame the tenants for the smoke. You don't get to pretend you're fighting for working class families while actively destroying the system that serves them. You don't believe in public education. You believe in publicly funded elitism. And you're mad that kids don't have life skills? Like, you guys are the reason they weren't taught. So these people never work a trade. They will pretend they did, and they never stepped foot in a Title I classroom. They don't know what it's like to teach kids who hasn't eaten they don't know how to fix anything at home, or they don't know any, like these schools can't afford all these things. But they'll tell you with a smug little grin that teachers are the problem, or the kids are the problem. Like, we are the problems. Like, no, they broke the system. And then blame the kids for surviving in the rubble. So let's talk receipts, because the people yelling the loudest about how public schools are quote unquote failing are the same ones who engineered the failure. Home economics, they slashed it. Shop class, gone. Vocational training, underfunded to the point of extinction. And do you think that just happened? No, this was intentional. It was a long, calculated dismantling of one institution that was supposed to level the playing field. And who led that charge? The right-wing policy makers, education reformers, corporate lobbyists in khakis pretending to care about kids while writing checks to testing companies. They're the ones who replaced skill-based learning with standardized testing factories. They gutted the arts, tech education, and life skills programs in favor of these tests. The No Child Left Behind and all that. They rerouted public funds to private religious academies and unregulated charter schools. They turned teachers into a political punching bags. They froze salaries while raising expectations on the test side. And now they're shocked that no one wants to be a teacher. So let's break this. Let me go down a little bit more. Between 2008 and 2020, nearly 60% of school districts in the United States eliminated or reduced vocational programs like auto tech, culinary arts, and woodshop. Why? Because they were deemed, according to them, non-essential in a world obsessed with raising the test scores. No student growth, no career readiness, test scores. Like, you know who profited out of this? Companies like Pearson, and you have heard these people. Pearson, McGraw-Hill, College Board. They were raking in billions by turning every school day into a multiple choice meat grinder. It's like, meanwhile, the kids who don't plan on going to a 4-year university, who wanted to like weld, build, fix cars, cut hair, run their own business, they were left behind. So now let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk about Oklahoma for a second, because this one does hit home a little bit. Oklahoma used to be a national leader in career tech. We had some of the most robust vocational programs in the country, from HVAC to health science to electrical trades. Those programs changed lives. They got kids jobs, kept them out of prison. They built generational wealth in places they had none. But now, we're watching the legacy being torched, especially by this dude named Ryan Walters. I'm gonna keep saying his name. He is a man who has no business running a school, let alone a state educational system. This dude spends more time filming unhinged Twitter videos. I'm not gonna call it X. Screw that. Twitter videos in his car than he does funding classrooms. He's not here to help schools. He's here to burn them down and then blame the ashes on the quote-unquote woke ideology. This guy called AP African American Studies as indoctrination, who claimed libraries were grooming children. Libraries, guys, libraries. He pushed a bill that will let parents sue teachers for teaching history they don't like. Like, imagine that. It's like, meanwhile, schools are crumbling. Teachers are leaving in droves. Like, the amount of teachers allegedly of people who have to be emergency certified in this state is crazy. And kids, they're the ones paying the price. And let me not just say, this isn't just an Oklahoma problem. This is happening in Florida with Ron DeSantis, in Texas where Greg Abbott will rather fund private vouchers than air conditioning to schools, in Tennessee where they're banning books faster than they fix reading levels, and included Mississippi, Arkansas, Iowa, South Carolina. Pick any red state. The playbook's the same. Cut funding, blame wokeness, funnel money to private institutions. Rinse, repeat, destroy, deny. And then they get on TV and say, well, kids don't have life skills anymore. Well, no shit. You took away the programs they taught them. You replaced metal shop with the test prep. You replace financial literacy with read this passage and identify the main idea. Again, being able to logical thinking is important, but you replace education with politics. Now you want to act shocked that kids don't come out of high school ready to run a household? You don't get to blame the fire department for the blaze you started.
Hey, Zay, hurry up.
This was never about helping students. It was about controlling what they learn, like who teaches them and who profits. So if you're here screaming about the kids can't budget, cook, or fix things, ask yourself who killed the classes that used to teach that. Ask yourself who defunded the schools. Ask yourself who called teachers groomers instead of heroes. And ask yourself who turned education into a war zone. Because I promise you, it wasn't the students. It was the politicians who saw public good and decided they could make more money by breaking it. Now, let me tell you about my students. I'm not going to name names. I'm just saying in general. They're not stupid. They're not entitled. They're not soft. They're resilient to a fault. They're just tired. Not from laziness, but from navigating a world that keeps shifting the goalposts and blaming them for not scoring. They're hungry, not just for food. though some literally are, but for relevance, for meaning, for someone to stop treating them like test data and start treating them like human beings. But instead of support, what do they get? They get finger pointing from people who haven't set foot in a classroom in 20 years. They get headlines calling them broken. They get politicians yelling about wokeness instead of fixing the damn ceiling tiles that are falling down on their desks. Let's get one thing straight. These kids have survived things most adults could never handle. You know what it's like to watch a 6th grader cry because she can't afford a field trip? Or a high school senior skip lunch every day because he's saving up to help his mom cover rent? You know what it's like to have a student ask if you can help him find a suit for a funeral? His 3rd funeral that year? You know what it's like to have kids writing in an assignment? I'm scared to graduate because school is the only place I feel safe. But yeah, let's keep calling them lazy because they can't make a rugs or fill out a W-2. Let me ask you one more time. When were they supposed to learn these quote-unquote basic skills? Was it when they were juggling 2 jobs because their family needed the help? When their high school had 0 electives because the district cut everything that wasn't a core subject? Or when their English teacher was out sick for 3 weeks and there was no subs? Or when the internet didn't work and they were expected to complete state testing online? It's like you don't get to point at the finish line when you burn the bridge that leads to it. And the hypocrisy, let me spell it out. The same politicians blaming kids for being unprepared are the same ones who voted to defund the very programs that will have prepared them. They cut vocational programs, check. Cut counselors, check. And by counselors, I mean qualified counselors. Cut nurses, check. Pile on testing, remove joy, then shame the results. Well, triple, double, to whatever check you want to do. They turned the school into a grind, not a place to grow, but a place to grind kids down. They don't see kids, they see future laborers. Future or voters or soldiers, consumers, prisoners. And let's be real, they like it when kids don't ask questions, when they don't vote, when they don't demand anything better, because the less they expect, the more these people can take. And you want to know what else kids are tired of? Being tested to death. By the time kids graduate from high school in the US, they've taken on average over 112 standardized tests. And yet somehow they've never learned how to apply for a lease, how to read a paycheck, how to cook a healthy meal, how to advocate for themselves in a doctor's office, how to cope when the world feels like it's falling apart. Because none of that was on the test. And look, I'm not saying every kid's perfect. They're still teenagers. They make mistakes. They're figuring out, but so did we. We all made mistakes. But the difference is we had a space to do that. But they have surveillance systems and a score report. You don't build strong kids by treating them like liabilities. You build them by giving them space, time, and resource to grow. But instead we give them trauma and tell them to bounce. And then we have the audacity to say they're not ready for the real world. No, they're surviving the real world already. You just refuse to admit it. And these kids, they're not broken. They're exhausted from navigating systems that were never designed to love them, protect them, or empower them. And if you're still blaming the kids, then maybe you're just not ready to admit who broke this system. So I'll just say, this is performative outrage, dressed up in patriotism and sprinkled in with buzzwords. They get on TV with their furrowed brows and flag pins and scream that schools are failing our children, but they vote for the people who made it that way. They pass legislation that got public education, then go online and act shocked that kids don't know how to file their taxes and all that stuff. It's not hypocrisy. It's not just the hypocrisy of them. It's theater. It's distraction. Let's talk the facts. Since 2008, over 29 states, so over half of the union, have cut public education funding below pre-recession levels. That's not me saying it. That's from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. And who led those cuts? Republican-controlled state legislatures. So let's go to Texas. The Texas cut per student funding nearly 20% since 2008. Oklahoma ranked 47 per pupil spending in 2023, spending roughly $10,000 per student, over $4,000 below the national average. Florida ranks 43rd in public education spending, but DeSantis just pushed through a universal voucher program that redirects $8,000 per student to private schools, even if those families already could afford private schools. So you're cutting thousands per public school student while handing out public dollars to private institutions. And you are blaming kids for not knowing how to make eye contact at a job interview? Stop lying, man. And let's be real about who's protected. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, over 78% of private school students come from families earning over $100,000 a year. And nearly 80% of private schools in the US are religious, meaning they're allowed to discriminate in admissions, dodge public accountability, and skip standardized testing. Yet these are the same school vouchers policies they're propping up with your tax dollars, your money. Now, contrast that with the Title I public schools, which serve low-income communities and rely heavily on state and federal funding. Like over 70% of Title I schools have student populations that are majority Black or Latino. They serve kids who are more likely to experience food insecurity, housing instability, and chronic stress. And they are the first to lose funding when the state reallocates education dollars to private and charter programs. So when someone like Ryan Walters in Oklahoma or Ron DeSantis in Florida goes on Fox News and says, we're empowering parents with school choice, what they're actually saying is, we're letting wealthier parents opt out and leaving the rest of you in the ashes. You can't say you care about the future of American students when your solution is to gut the system that serves 90% of all the United States children. You create policies that strip resources from schools serving the most vulnerable. And you call teachers groomers while ignoring real structural failure in funding, staffing, and curricular equity. So these people won't send their kids to the schools they destroyed. They talk about basic skills, but then they send their kids to school with SAT prep consultants, organic lunch menus, private tutors, college counselors with Ivy League connections. And meanwhile, public school kids in rural districts are learning in trailers because the buildings are falling apart, going to school 4 days a week because the district can't afford 5, taking turns with shared calculators, getting handed outdated science books that still list Pluto as the planet. Controversial topic, apparently. And this is what inequality looks like. And the worst part, they don't want to fix it. They want to profit from it. They want it that way. And you want to know how I know? Look at these folks do when the teachers strike. They send in anti-union lawyers. They're threatened to dock pay. They pass laws to make it illegal for teachers to walk out. Like in Oklahoma, they had a law. They had teachers sign a contract saying that we could not criticize anything political on social media. They don't want to negotiate. They punish. You can't say you respect teachers while legislating against the rights to fight for a livable wage. You can't say kids are our future and then deny them everything they need to succeed, while blaming the outcome on lazy parenting or leftist ideology. You built a broken system, and now you're using it as a campaign strategy. So yeah, I'm done listening to millionaires in suits whine about how kids don't know how to change a tire. You cut the tire shop. You fired the teachers who ran it. You sold the building it was in. And now you want to blame the kids while kids walking to work? No, this is your mess. Own it. So with all that, here's what I want you to take with you. This isn't just a lie. It's a strategy. It's not just kids today don't know anything. It's let's convince the public that the system doesn't work so we can sell it for parts. It's all been a setup First they fund education, then they demonize it, then they come in with their solution, not to fix it, but to cash in on the failure they created. Corporate charters, online voucher mills, for-profit testing companies, and billionaire-backed school choice campaigns that don't offer choice. They offer segregation with a smile. They're not trying to fix the schools. They're not trying to fix them. They're trying to control the narrative. Because when people stop trusting schools, they stop trusting teachers. And when they stop trusting teachers, they stop trusting education itself. And if you destroy that trust, you can tell people anything you want. You can replace real history with whitewashed fairy tales or conspiracy theories. You can demonize immigrants, queer kids, and teachers who dare to tell the truth. You can fuel racism, xenophobia, and fear of the other, all because you've intentionally kept people uninformed. And let's be real, that's the end game. The GOP and their media lapdogs don't want an educated public. They want just enough education for you to work, but not enough for you to organize, not enough for you to unionize, not enough for you to question why billionaires aren't paying taxes while your school doesn't have paper. It's not incompetence, it's a design. They figure out the formula. Keep the common folk undereducated, keep them distracted, keep them angry at each other, black versus white, rural versus urban, straight versus gay, parent versus teacher. Because if you're busy fighting each other, you're not fighting them, the politicians, especially the right wing. I'm going to make that clear. So the next time someone looks at a teenager and says, well, kids don't know how to do anything, you look at them dead in the eye and ask, and who made it that way? Because I've been in these classrooms. I've seen what students are up against. I've seen what they are capable of when they actually believe in them. Our kids are not broken. Our system is. And the people profiting of that brokenness want you to stay focused. But not here. Not on this show. And I'm going to add something. Because that's what's going on. And I've seen it. The schools are so focused on tests, a test center, and to raise the score, that a lot of the people who are suffering are not just the teachers. The students are suffering. They don't want to come to school anymore because all they do is getting destroyed by these people who don't care about them. And when there's a teacher who cares about them and tells them the truth, they get kicked out. So I want you to stick with me on this. Please, I'm asking you to start talking to your representatives. Education is important to everybody. So let's stop pretending that this is all about wokeness and all that stuff, because we know that's not what's happening. What's happening is that we want everybody to succeed, and everybody needs to be educated, and that's what the Republicans don't want. They want us to stay dumb, because when we don't stay informed, then they can say whatever they want. With all that, I want to say again, thank you for listening, and this has been The Lies We Tell. This is your midweek dose of truth from someone who's seen it from the inside. I'm your host, Luis, teacher, veteran, and someone who still believes in public schools even when they've been pushed to the brink. If this episode got you fired up, good. If it made you uncomfortable, even better. Now go share it. Go talk about it. Go push back. Please hit me up on social, leave a review, leave a comment, and please tell me, what life skill do you wish school actually taught you? And why wasn't it there in the first place? And don't forget, here's what's coming up next on the podcast. This Saturday's is going to be a deep dive. We are diving into the 2008 Wall Street recession and how all destroyed the economy, but they still walking free is the last part of our white crime series. And then next Wednesday, again, we're going to do the Lies We Tell segment. So where we're breaking down all these lies of the right wing or anything that we believe in the current society. But for that, that's all from me. Thanks for riding with me. Until next time, keep questioning the noise and keep fighting for the truth.